Dubai's marinas were once the undisputed hub of global yacht culture, a nautical empire built to anchor the world's wealthiest owners. Then it collapsed. 2,000 vessels now sit idle. Occupancy has cratered to 45%, $800 million in asset value gone. Abandoned yachts deteriorate at their moorings, leaking fuel into the harbor, while 12,000 maritime jobs have vanished. To understand how Dubai's marinas emptied this fast, you have to understand the machine that was built to fill them. On October 17, 2003, construction crews broke ground along a barren stretch of Dubai's coastline. In place of empty sand, the plan called for a 3.5-kilometer man-made canal, flanked by glass towers and a marina engineered to rival Monaco. By the end of the decade, more than 2,000 berths would line the waterway, with capacity spread across Dubai Marina, Port Rashid, and Mina Sayahi. The vision was unapologetically grand. Dubai would not simply join the world's yachting capitals, it would outshine them. The developer described the project as a new anchor for global wealth, a place where super yachts from London, Moscow, and Mumbai would dock beneath a skyline of luxury apartments and five-star hotels. Every detail pointed to scale and spectacle. The marina's infrastructure was designed to accommodate vessels up to 160 meters in length, with berths for both everyday pleasure craft and the rare floating palaces of billionaires. Dredgers moved millions of cubic meters of sand to carve out the canal, while imported palm trees and marble promenades promised a lifestyle as exclusive as the world's most coveted Mediterranean ports. Developers and city officials spoke openly about their ambitions. This marina would not be a quiet harbor for locals. It would be a magnet for international capital, a showcase for Dubai's arrival as a true luxury destination. The project's mission, repeated in press releases and boardroom speeches, was unambiguous: to build the most desirable address for yacht owners on earth. The numbers were staggering for the region. Over 2,000 berths were planned across the city's new marinas, with Dubai Marina alone targeting more than 1,000 slips. The construction boom drew in a workforce from across Asia and Europe, filling the city with engineers, marine architects, and service crews. By 2010, the skyline had been transformed. High-rise towers reflected off the water, and the marina's walkways thrummed with activity. The docks filled with vessels registered in the Cayman Islands, Malta, and the British Virgin Islands. A floating index of global wealth, Dubai's name began appearing in yachting magazines and international rankings, no longer as an upstart, but as a peer to St. Tropez and Port Hercules. The stage was set for a golden era. Every berth was a symbol of ambition, and every arrival was a signal that Dubai had secured its place at the center of the world's luxury nautical economy. By the end of 2019, the docks of Dubai Marina, Port Rashid, and Mina Sayahi were filled almost to capacity. Official records put occupancy at 88 to 90% in the final quarter, with some weekends seeing every berth spoken for. The city's marinas logged an average of 12 new vessel arrivals each month, a steady stream of superyachts and pleasure craft registered from London, Moscow, Mumbai, and beyond. Charter companies posted record numbers. Industry estimates for that year put total yacht charter revenue in Dubai between $100 million and $170 million, a figure that dwarfed regional competitors and confirmed Dubai's place at the top of the Gulf's luxury hierarchy. Owner demographics told their own story of ambition and mobility. In 2019, the marina's registry listed a mix of Russian oligarchs, Saudi royals, British expatriates, Indian business magnates, and a growing number of European and American executives. For many, Dubai's berths served as both a trophy and a bolt hole, a place to park wealth, host parties, and wait out instability elsewhere. The city's reputation as a safe haven for the ultra-rich was as carefully maintained as the hulls gleaming in the marina sun. Then, in early 2020, the pandemic swept through the Gulf. Yacht occupancy plummeted to as low as 65%, and for the first time in a decade, the walkways fell silent. But the shock proved temporary. By late 2022, Dubai's marinas had rebounded with a vigor that surprised even seasoned operators. The recovery was driven in part by a surge of Russian-owned yachts fleeing, European sanctions, and a renewed appetite for private, insulated luxury. Occupancy climbed back to 88% by 2023, nearly matching the pre-pandemic peak. Charter bookings surged by 25 to 30% that year, and marina-side restaurants, clubs, and service firms reported revenues approaching their best years on record. Yet beneath the surface, the prosperity was fragile. The owner mix had shifted. More vessels sat unused for months at a time. Flags were changed to evade sanctions. Crews were reduced to skeleton staff. The marinas looked full, but the energy had changed. Brokers whispered about nervous owners quietly exploring options in the Mediterranean, and service firms began noticing late payments and contract renegociations. The illusion of stability rested on a delicate balance: the continued inflow of global wealth, the absence of regional conflict, and the widespread perception that Dubai remained a safe, unshakable sanctuary for the world's floating palaces. With every berth filled, The city's luxury ecosystem looked unbreakable, but all it would take was a single shock to reveal just how much of that prosperity was real, and how much was simply waiting to vanish. On February 28, 2026, the first warning hit Dubai's marine sector just after sunrise. Within 4 hours, global insurance syndicates issued emergency advisories. All Gulf waters, including Dubai's marinas, were now classified as high risks. Premiums for yacht coverage surged by 300% in a single morning. For owners with vessels moored at Dubai Marina, Port Rashid, and Mina Sayhai, the numbers were immediate and brutal. Policies that once cost £80,000 a year now demanded over £320,000. If coverage could be secured at all. Lina, a senior analyst at HSBC Middle East, described the aftermath as a financial wipeout. In her words, "We saw over £800 million in asset value erased from Dubai's marinas in less than a week. Buyers vanished, brokers froze deals, lenders began calling in debts. The market for super yachts and pleasure craft collapsed overnight, not from physical damage, but from the sudden and total withdrawal of trust." The city's marinas, once a showcase for global wealth, had become a ledger of stranded investments. The shock did not stop at the dock. Charter operators found their bookings cancelled en masse. Crew contracts were suspended or terminated without notice. Service companies from mechanics to marina caterers watched their revenue evaporate. The luxury ecosystem that had depended on the seamless movement of capital and unwavering confidence in Dubai's safety unraveled in real time. By midday, the first aerial footage of empty slips and idle hulls was already circulating online. The physical vacancy that followed was not gradual. It was the visible aftermath of a single financial jolt, echoing through every corner of the marina economy. 45%, that is the official figure for marina occupancy in March 2026, a number that would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier, where the docks once held a waiting list. Nearly 2,000 vessels now sit idle across Dubai Marina, Port Rashid, and Mina Sayhai. Drone footage that swept across social media captured the scale instantly. Rows of empty berths, hulls bleaching in the sun, and walkways where no crew moved. In a city built on spectacle, the silence felt louder than any headline. The vacancy is not just a statistic, it is a physical wound. The camera pans across what was once a floating parade of global wealth. Now, fenders rub against empty docks, paint peels from neglected bows, the waterline collects scum instead of champagne corks. High-rises cast their reflections over empty water, not polished decks. The geometry of absence is unmistakable. Berths built for 2,000 vessels, half of them unclaimed. For marina operators, each empty slip is a financial wound that compounds daily. Monthly mooring fees, once a reliable income stream, have dried up entirely. Service crews, mechanics, and cleaning contractors watch their contracts disappear. The ripple is immediate. Every idle yacht means a lost job, a closed business, a missed payment to the banks that financed this floating economy. The viral drone footage did not simply document a downturn. It made the collapse visible to the world. The city that once sold itself as the ultimate safe harbor for the global elite now broadcasts its emptiness, berth by berth. In Dubai, luxury was always meant to be seen. Now, so is the unraveling super yachts that once anchored Dubai's status as a luxury. Capital began vanishing from their berths almost overnight. Eyes tracking data and port logs revealed the full scale of the exodus. 70% of Russian-owned vessels rerouted toward Turkish, Greek and Croatian ports, slipping past the breakwaters in convoys. Brokers described a frantic rush to Mediterranean marinas, Bodrum, Mykonos, Limassol, where insurance coverage still held and the threat of conflict felt comfortably distant. GCC nationals shifted course as well, with many vessels relocating to Saudi Arabia's Red Sea coast in search of quieter harbors and the fresh incentives being offered by Neo and King Abdullah economic city. Nearly half of the European-flagged fleet, long a fixture in Dubai's marinas, departed for the French and Italian Riviera, where buyers and charter guests were already waiting. American executives and investors, always quick to pivot, sent instructions to their crews to cross the seas and head for the Caribbean St. Bart's. Nassau, Antigua, where the season was just beginning. Ahmed Nasser, a veteran marina manager, watched the exodus unfold in real time. He recounted how, within days, familiar hulls had disappeared from their berths, leaving behind nothing but unpaid invoices and silent radios. The departure routes traced a map of global wealth in motion, capital, unbound by risk, always chasing the next safe harbor. As the docks emptied, it became undeniably clear that Dubai's luxury ecosystem had depended entirely on owners who could and would leave at the first sign of trouble. The void they left behind was not just physical, it was a collapse of demand, a sudden vacuum that no local buyer or charter operator could fill. 12,000 jobs vanished from Dubai's marine sector in fewer than 4 months. Dr. Sima Al-Faizi, a marine ecologist with the Dubai Environment Agency, described the collapse as a chain reaction. When the yachts left, the service contracts disappeared with them. Crews, cleaners, mechanics, caterers, gone. Every idle hole meant another family without income. The layoffs cut deep into a workforce that had once kept the marinas spotless and fully operational around the clock. The impact did not stop with payroll. Majid Masad, head of Dubai's Port Safety Division, recorded a sharp drop in active infrastructure. Of 320 navigation buoys, nearly half -150 in total were decommissioned or left unmaintained as funding dried up. These floating markers, once critical for safe passage, now drifted or rusted out of position, turning the marinas into a patchwork of hidden hazards. Neglected vessels brought new dangers below the surface as well. Water samples taken in March 2026 revealed fuel and oil leaks averaging 3,200 liters per month across Dubai's main marinas. Turbidity readings spiked by 47%, clouding water that had once run crystal clear. Dissolved oxygen levels dropped by 22%, stressing fish populations and accelerating algae blooms along the hulls of abandoned boats. Dr. Alazi warned that this was no mere eyesore, it was a growing ecological risk. Every month of neglect pushed the recovery window further out of reach. The marinas, once Dubai's most visible symbol of luxury, were now broadcasting an entirely different message: decay, danger, and a future slipping away. Bank filings from the spring of 2026 revealed the next stage of fallout, a sharp rise in loan defaults tied to luxury yachts and marina-front properties. In just 3 months, Dubai's major lenders reported £1.1 billion in non-performing marine loans, a figure that dwarfed anything seen during the 2008 financial crash. Liquidation notices stacked up, 18 in March, 12 in April, another 9 by mid-May. As banks scrambled to recover assets that had no buyers, the property market, once buoyed by the promise of marina views, faltered in lockstep. Penthouse prices in Dubai Marina fell by 40% from their 2025 highs. According to real estate data tracked by analyst Maya, sellers outnumbered buyers 10 to 1. Even trophy apartments with direct marina access sat unsold for months. Lenders unable to offload repossessed yachts or luxury condominiums began writing down their books, fueling a growing sense of contagion across Dubai's broader financial sector. Sundaram warned that the city's luxury real estate engine had always been built on fragile foundations, a web of international credit, speculative investment, and the unchallenged assumption that global wealth would never run dry. The rapid collapse of the marina economy had punctured that illusion, sending shockwaves through banks, property developers, and anyone holding debt linked to Dubai's once unshakable waterfront. The risk was no longer local. When trust evaporates and asset values collapse overnight, the damage spreads far beyond the docks. In the same months that Dubai's marinas emptied, the Mediterranean's docks filled to bursting. Port authorities in Monaco, Antigua and Bodrum reported a 15% surge in super yacht arrivals for the 2026 season, a gain that outpaced every previous year on record. Berth waiting lists along the French and Italian Riviera stretched longer than ever, with charter brokers in Athens and Palma de Mallorca fielding a flood of inquiries from owners who, until recently, had called Dubai home. Turkish and Greek marinas moved quickly to expand their capacity, racing to accommodate the influx. Local governments fast-tracked permits for new berths, and seasonal crew contracts spiked across the region. The calendar for Mediterranean yacht events, from the Cannes Yachting Festival to the Monaco Yacht Show, expanded to include overflow showcases at secondary ports. Dubai's own boat show, once a fixture of the global circuit, was quietly cancelled for 2027. The shift was impossible to miss. European marinas, once cautious about overcapacity, now posted record occupancy and rising fees. For every empty berth in Dubai, a new arrival appeared on the Côte d'Azur or the Aegean. The center of gravity in the world's luxury yacht trade had moved, and the winners wasted no time making that fact visible. Dubai's marinas now stand at a crossroads, each path defined by numbers that once would have seemed impossible. On the optimistic end, city planners cling to projections that occupancy could stabilize at 30% by 2029, assuming global tensions ease and a new wave of buyers can be attracted through deep discounts and aggressive redevelopment. Several proposals are in circulation, converting empty berths into public waterfront spaces, repurposing dry docks for commercial use, and repositioning the marina as a hub for technology startups rather than super. But even these best-case scenarios demand a leap of faith that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt through branding alone. A more likely outcome, based on current redevelopment plans and occupancy trends, is a prolonged period of stagnation. By 2032, only 1 in 5 berths may see regular use, with the rest left to deteriorate through weather and neglect. Maintenance costs will climb, environmental hazards will multiply, and the marina's reputation as a ghost port will only harden over time. The luxury economy that once sustained over 1,000 businesses could fade into memory, replaced by empty storefronts and weathered banners. The worst-case scenario is already becoming visible along parts of the waterfront. If abandonment rates continue at their current pace, more than 60% of Dubai's prime berths could stand empty within a decade. The city that once defined itself through spectacle risks becoming a cautionary tale. The place where the world's wealth sailed away and left the marinas as monuments to a vanished era. Today, corroding hulls and silent marinas signal something far greater than lost luxury. They mark a rupture in Dubai's global identity. When trust and the perception of safety disappear, wealth flees at lightning speed, taking entire livelihoods and industries with it. Yacht culture did not simply decorate Dubai, it anchored an entire promise. Now that anchor drags along the seabed, what remains is not just a row of empty berths. It is a warning, written in salt and steel.